Welcome back to another Bitcoin video. This time I want to talk about scaling Bitcoin by looking at a few fundamentals and possible solutions. What does scaling Bitcoin actually mean? What are the possible solutions, and why is it maybe not even that necessary for Bitcoin to scale to become much bigger and much more valuable than it is right now?
Well, it's probably rat poison squared.
So what does scaling Bitcoin actually mean? To use Bitcoin in our everyday transactions like we currently use fiat currencies like the US dollar or euro, we need to find solutions to make this amount of transactions in basically real time possible. The block size of the Bitcoin blockchain limits the amount of possible transactions to about 3 to 7 transactions per second. To put this into perspective, Visa does up to 24,000 transactions per second. So scaling Bitcoin means being able to handle way more transactions per second than it currently does. First things first, Bitcoin does not necessarily need to scale to be worth much more than it is right now. If Bitcoin simply stays a store of value that's competing with gold, there are not many transactions people need to make, and they are sufficiently fast and cheap. Gold transactions are much harder, slower and costlier, and gold's market cap is still more than 10 times bigger than Bitcoin's. Sure, it's not all monetary premium compared to Bitcoin, but only a small amount of gold's price is attributed to its industrial and ornamental use. So if that's all Bitcoin will ever be, a store of value, we are already good and don't need to talk much about scaling. However, what if Bitcoin could be something way bigger than that, like the global form of money that we all use in our daily transactions, even if we just want to buy a cup of coffee, for example? The regular Bitcoin transactions that become part of the blockchain would be completely infeasible here. Fees would be way too high and transactions too slow. There would simply be too many transactions for the blockchain to handle, and paying a $10 fee for a cup of coffee is an obvious no-go. So to achieve this use case, we need solutions. A flaw that many make in this process is comparing Bitcoin itself to credit cards, for example. The latter, of course, can process way more transactions in the same amount of time while being way cheaper in terms of energy usage. But this is not a fair comparison. Bitcoin transactions achieve final settlement through the blockchain. This is not the case with credit card transactions. The second it takes to transact with a credit card is not a final settlement. Instead, the provider makes an advance payment and a bank later settles the transactions in bunches. So when we talk about final settlement, Bitcoin is actually faster. Bitcoin's transactions also have no limit when it comes to value. The blocks of the blockchain have a limited space for a limited amount of transactions, but whether the transactions are worth $10 or $200 billion doesn't matter at all. Bitcoin and banks are a base layer, so to say, while credit cards are a layer on top of that. A similar layer on top of that in the Bitcoin sense is the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network offers a set of rules that are built on top of the Bitcoin network. Therefore, it is also referred to as a second layer solution. How Lightning works is that transactions are done off-chain but still retain the same trust model and having actual Bitcoin transactions through smart contracts. Two users that want to transact with each other open a payment channel and add a deposit to the channel. They then transact with each other as often as they want with the deposits and then do a final settlement by closing the channel that gets recorded into the blockchain. This allows the Lightning Network to support millions of transactions per second with a fee that is almost zero, certainly cheaper than Visa, and instantaneous. However, you need to pay when opening and closing payment channels. The first issue you might observe here is that my description sounds like you need to open a payment channel with whoever you want to transact with. If you, for example, get your cup of coffee at a different place every single day, this would be quite annoying and costly.
But while this is all very nice, it means I have to deposit funds with each new person I want to interact with, and that's not very realistic. In order to overcome this issue, the Lightning Network allows me to jump through connected payment channels. This means that if I have a payment channel with my friend and he has a payment channel with his sister, I can ask my friend to pay his sister on my behalf using their open payment channel. The network effect makes the Lightning Network much more powerful, since in order to transact with anyone, you just need to find a path to that someone through other participants in the network who already know each other. It doesn't even matter if that channel goes through 100 different intermediaries, hence making the Lightning Network globally scalable.
The more people use Lightning, the more useful it becomes. The network effects are immense. There are some centralization risks with nodes in the Lightning Network, however you can decide to run your own node. I will go into way more detail of the Lightning Network pros and cons in a future video. This one should be a general discussion of different scaling ideas and not a deep dive. Also, just as a side note, Strike has been a great addition operating on the Lightning Network. I leave a link in the description for you to check it out. So next up are hard forks like Bitcoin Cash, for example, and other altcoins. Bitcoin Cash claims to solve the scaling issue. The core idea was to enlarge the block size from 1 MB to 8 MB, resulting in faster transaction times with lower fees. However, being able to have 8 times as many transactions than BTC puts Bitcoin Cash to just 56 transactions per second. Still not even close at all to what Visa can do. On-chain scaling is not the solution in my opinion. It's working in the short term, but not really in the long term. The blockchain would get way too big to store and there simply is no free lunch. So the changes come with downsides as well. Bitcoin Cash is less secure and decentralized and has less liquidity compared to Bitcoin. This holds true for all other cryptocurrencies. Some may have faster transaction speeds, but lack other attributes, for example being less open, less decentralized, missing liquidity, or are more easily manipulated. In the end, what you need to realize is that scalability itself is not a hard to solve problem. Visa has solved it by being completely centralized. The hard part is to achieve scalability without sacrifices in other areas, and no fork or altcoin delivers that.
Think about blockchains as trying to optimize across 3 different axes, and those are scalability, security, and decentralization. And part of the problem is that when you try to optimize one of those, it might be at the expense of the other 2. So the easiest way to maximize scalability is by damaging decentralization and security. It's actually very difficult to optimize without making a trade-off. So a lot of alternative blockchains propose that there is a simple and easy solution to scalability. Of course, what they don't reveal immediately is that that solution damages decentralization or damages security in some other way. And that's a trade-off that they may be willing to make, and that's an alternative approach to solving this problem. But it's not the trade-off that Bitcoin makes. Bitcoin prefers decentralization over scalability. And that means that in order to achieve scale while maintaining decentralization and the security model without reducing decentralization, you have to look at solutions that include second and third layers.
The third possible solution is WebBTC, also known as WBTC. What is meant by that is that it's Bitcoin as an ERC20 token running on the Ethereum blockchain. This opens up your BTC, or rather fake WBTC, to be used in decentralized finance. The Ethereum blockchain adds a new block every 15 seconds instead of every 10 minutes, which means WebBTC is faster in that way than the real BTC. The problem with WebBTC is that you need to trust a custodian to hold real BTC. We made the same mistake already when trusting banks with gold. WebBTC is not Bitcoin but an IOU. If the custodian finds a way to offer you more WebBTC than they actually have BTC, just like banks offered more dollars than they could back with gold in their vault, fractional reserve banking with Bitcoin is not a stretch from here. So unfortunately, WebBTC is not the solution we are looking for. This boils down to the same as the tether discussion. If you need to trust a custodian, you enter the same problem that Bitcoin tries to solve in the first place. So what's the conclusion here? I don't think we have a perfect solution yet. I think Lightning is the closest and it's actually the one where I see the most potential, but it's not perfect. Let's fulfill the store of value category first and lowering price volatility by doing so before really arguing about Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, because right now it does not even offer this use case for most people. We are far from mass adoption in that area and have time to improve second layer solutions like Lightning or come up with other ideas. Bitcoin itself is immutable, but what you build on top of it is quite iterative and might look very different 10 years from now. Now it's your turn, let me know what you think. I'm always open to being convinced by good ideas and good reasoning, so if you have something on your mind here, please drop it down in the comments below. And I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to not miss any further Bitcoin videos, and I see you next time.